So, next up on the docket, we have the trade between the Capitals and the Kings. Basically just swapping Dubois and Kemper, getting rid of two sort of disappointing players on both of their team sides and giving them kind of a fresh start with Dubois having a very, very disappointing season that pretty much everybody knew about. I think one of the stats I saw recently was McDavid almost having more points than Dubois in the playoffs compared to Dubois in the regular season, which is absolutely hilarious. And Kemper on the other side hasn't been broadcasted quite as much, but he had quite a little bit more of a disappointing season on a bad Capitals team, going 13, 14, and 3 with a 3.31 goals against average and a .890 save percent. So just overall, both players sort of underperforming, and now they're both sort of getting fresh starts. And the one unfortunate thing, I think the one reason there's a little bit of imbalance is in the contracts. I think Dubois is making close to $9 million, if I remember off the top of my head. I want to find that number now. I'm not finding it.
I'm pulling it up now.
Okay.
I'm pulling it up.
Well,
now.
while you pull it up,
Kemper's cap hit is currently
a
little bit over $5 million a year, five and a quarter, and he's in the next upcoming season will be the third year of a 5-year deal. Dubois' contract is, let me go to cap friendly before it gets eventually taken down. RIP.
By the Capitals.
Dubois' cap hit, yeah, fair enough. True. Dubois' cap hit is $8.5 million.
Okay.
And Dubois is in, I probably like the second. The second.
He's got to be
like
second
year deal or 8-year deal.
Yeah. So it's the cap. The cap
He's
are not
free until like 2032.
The cap's not even. That's more what the point I was trying to make there is even without the numbers in front of me, I had a pretty good idea that was the case. As I mean, across the board, it's not exactly an even trade. I think if both players bounce back, we'll start looking at this trade as one that makes a lot of sense. But as of right now, you have to, especially if you're the Capitals, you have to be really confident in Dubois. I think is the one thing that a lot of people have echoed. I don't remember what the GM of the Capitals' name is, but I remember the comment he made immediately after the trade went through is that he thinks Dubois still has immense potential and can still turn into something really, really good. And I think this sort of trade is a sign of that because they are willing to give him that potentially 6 years of $8 million. They just took that off the Kings. The Kings would have had to hold on to that anchor for however long that they would have had to. The Capitals just took that away from them. And that certainly makes things a little bit more interesting now is they're kind of betting on themselves a little bit. I wonder if Ovechkin running out of time here has something to do with that, as they still are trying to compete. I've talked way too much, so I'll toss it over to you to give you a chance to give your opinion, Caleb. But I think to wrap up what I'm saying is I feel very weird about this trade. It's a very weird one, especially I think the Kings won. Honestly, that would be my opinion, just because of the contracts, though. It has nothing to do with the players. You're trading money.
I agree that the Kings won, but I think I'm a lot stronger in one side of it than you are. I think the Kings fleeced them. I think this is going to be looked at as one of the best trades. I don't know. In this is I maybe I won't make it too bold of a declarative statement here, but I think it's going to be looked at as one of the better trades in the next 5 years. And I think it's just because of that whale of a contract that they gave Dubois, that even before, even when it was signed, when he was not playing bad, he was playing pretty good.
I don't think he's ever had more than 70 points in a year. Has he? I think he had a 70-point season.
On potential.
Yeah.
It's always been banking on potential for him. And it's not entirely unearned. But it was this season where you look at him and finally say, oh, it's fallen off the cliff. And oh no, we've just given him a contract that's top of the league type money for 8 years. What are we going to do? That's the kind of contract, like we talked about it in the last segment. That's the type of contract that you give like Huberto, and you look at it as a franchise and say this is a franchise record. It's a franchise record of a contract, and they were able to somehow move it and not have to like give up anything. Like a lot of the times when you're moving a contract this, you will have to like give a team a first round pick just to take the contract off of you. Like think about like the Flames and Sean Monahan, when Sean Monahan kind of seemed like damaged goods, where the Flames had to give up a first round pick to get Montreal to take Monahan off of them. It's honestly shocking that the Kings didn't have to do that. And you pair it with the fact that, yes, the player they're getting back in Kemper, obviously similar kind of situation where disappointing season. But I think I have a lot more faith in Kemper bouncing back and at least providing something than I do Dubois. Because I think with Dubois, you're banking on him bouncing back not just to the status he was, but to the status of what his contract is, which is superstar level. And that feels almost unattainable. With LA, their goalie situation is already kind of like mercurial and uncertain at this point anyways. So throw in Darcy Kemper into the mix, maybe he'll play well, maybe he won't. For him to bounce back, it's just living up to him being like a average or above, slightly above average type goaltender for the next season. And I think that feels a lot more likely than the Dubois thing. And even if it doesn't work out, then whatever. You only have to ride out the Kemper contract for another couple more years at a lessened cap hit. Whereas the Dubois contract, you have to ride out for basically how, like, as the GM, you're going to be fired before Dubois is gone from this team. I don't know. I look at this deal and I'm just like, how, if you're the Capitals, do you ever accept that? If the Kings come to me with this deal and I'm the GM of the Capitals, I laugh them out of the room.
Yeah, and one point I really wanted to make, actually. The funny thing is that when he signed that contract, he actually was coming off of a career year of 63 points. So, I mean, even at that point, I don't even know where the hype came from, honestly. Like, I know I'm looking at it in retrospect. Pick, right? I know, but so was Yakupov. And, like, I'm looking at, like, the points, and I don't know what he ever had. He had 27 goals in his last season with Winnipeg. 27 goals, 36 assists, +5 plus minus, 77 minutes in the box. Like, he just was not very good. Even in that last season, he was not an $8 million player. And I understand you're banking on him potentially reaching that next level. But if he almost had the same season in 2018, I think what we've sort of seen is that that's his ceiling. 60 points a season is Dubois' ceiling. He is a fine power forward. He's a great second or even third line center. Does he need an $8 million contract? Absolutely not. He should have never been given that deal. And now the Capitals have that. They will. The funny thing, the point I was going to make immediately after what you said, because I think you did make a lot of good points. The one thing I'll disagree with is I do not think that there needs to be any expectation on Kemper. Kemper could be an AHL starter for the next 3 years and just be an albatross on the Kings books, and Dubois could have 3 more 60-point seasons, and I would still say the Kings won. That is the funny thing, because you got rid of that $8 million contract. Because no matter what Dubois does, he is never going to be able to live up to that. No matter what. You should never be paying that amount of money for a guy who only scores 60 points a season. That is just ridiculous. Like, imagine giving even, like, as a comparison, like, I think, like, Michael Backlund, right? Michael Backlund is a fine center. He is great. Would I ever give him a $6.5 or $7 million contract for, like, his 40, 50-point seasons? Absolutely not. Never in a million years. As much as I love having him on the Flames, I would never do that. And it's the same thing with Dubois. He's a fine player. He's a great power forward. And if he is on the right team for less than $5 million, give him $5, $6 million. Awesome. Give him 8. Shoot me in the head before I take him on my team. Like, it's just not a contract you ever want.
Yeah. And I think the Backlund comparison is interesting as Flames fans. because I think we all look at Backlund fairly positively, and I think one of the reasons is that he never had a season like with the Kings where it was just such a drop off, and it just feels like Dubois has been so up and down where you just don't know what to expect. One of the best things about Backlund is that he's so consistent.
Yeah.
There's also the leadership factor of it too. Backlund brings that as well. Where I if you're giving me the two players straight up, I'd honestly say I prefer Backlund.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Age, disregarding age, I don't know. I just
Oh, a
think
prime
it's such
Backlund? Oh, hell yeah.
yeah, it's such a question. It's just such a questionable move. Um, I don't know. I think it's one of those things where you look back and as a Capitals fan, and like in 3 or 4 years, you're gonna be like, oh, like I can't believe there's still like 4 more years left on this Dubois deal. Like where we can't get anything done in free agency. We're just completely hamstrung because we got an additional nearly $9 million on the books. I don't understand if this deal, like the Capitals got back like a first round pick or like a couple picks.
No, I
don't know.
At
Least it makes it. At least you get something.
You know what? Can I throw a point out there though, just quick? Because I remember you bringing up the Monahan trade, and I think that's a really, really good example. Except for the fact that the length on that contract was a lot shorter than 8 years. Like you got to understand, like that Monahan trade, it was handcuffing a bad Montreal Canadiens team for a season. Like if he was bad, it ended up working out for them, which is the funny thing.
Turned it around.
Yeah, exactly. But let's say he was bad, it would have ended up handcuffing them for 1 or 2 seasons, right? That's it, and then it would be over. That's not the case here. You're taking a first round pick, for example, for Dubois, and sure, you might get a great prospect, but that prospect will be in his mid-20s before Dubois is out of the building. Which I think you're not just taking 1 or 2 seasons to being handcuffed. You are signing away $8 million every season for a guy who can maybe give you 60 points on his best day. Maybe get you... he's never had a 30-goal season. I was going to say maybe get you 30 goals. He's gotten 27, twice in his career, never gone higher. It's such a scary thing now. Especially as somebody who really wanted Ovi to have that type of like, let's see Ovi in the playoffs again, like one more time. Let's see the Capitals continue to just run into the wall and get knocked out in the first round. Let Ovi have a few more appearances. This ain't it. This ain't it, dog. This ain't gonna get you there. No. So it's not.
I mean, like, I don't know. I think about with the Monahan trade, like exactly what you said, where it was actually a lot like the Monahan deal was a lot easier to shrug off, which is why it's just so much more astounding that they didn't get anything back, because I would have expected even a lot more. And I don't know. I just think the last thing that I kind of have to say on it is, I look at this and I look at the cap number and I try to think of what's best case scenario for Dubois with the Capitals, where I say, what kind of season does it take for me to say, okay, like, I think this is probably his ceiling. Like, I can't see it getting any better than this. Maybe he hits, I'll just, like, throwing random point numbers out there. His highest is, like, 60. Let's say he improves on that by, like, 20. Let's say he has, like, an 80-point season, right?
Yeah.
At that point, I'm still not looking at the contract and saying like, oh wow, what a steal. I'm looking at that and saying, okay, that's getting there. That's pretty close to fair. When that's like your best case scenario, saying, that's pretty good. That all like I don't see. That just makes it so much more.
Is there a world
in the fact that best case scenario, it's still like, it's okay.
Is there a world where Dubois comes back and has a 90-point season, scores 40 goals, and, like, turns the Capitals into a playoff team? Like, can you even imagine... No. In the multiverse, where there is infinite realities, can you even imagine one? Like, I'm imagining, like, you're walking up to Doctor Strange, and you're like, is there even one? What's our percentage of succeeding? He's telling you nada. Ain't happening, buddy. Go home. Like, because that's the funny thing. Like, this is going to be the clip that comes back in a year as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course he's gonna break out and he's gonna have like 120
Of course
points.
he is. Like, it's going to be absolutely hilarious when it happens. But he's just not the type of player I can ever imagine getting to that point because he's just not. Like, he's a power forward. Like, I think of like, and this is shitty because it's making it sound like I'm saying that you shouldn't pay a player even like a Ginla. But the thing with a Ginla is even he could never, as that type of play style, he could never break 100 points. So with Dubois, you're paying him like a guy who's going to do that. You're not necessarily getting leadership out of him. You're not getting a locker room guy. You're just getting a guy you expect to hit and score goals. And he can't do either of those things very well. And you paid him $8 million. It's just like, what the fuck? Like, it doesn't make any sense, really. Like, so at least that's my argument against it. Like, I look at a player like Dubois, and he's just not it. He was never going to be it. Don't give him this contract. He's a perfectly fine power forward who could have had a 15-year career. I honestly think this contract permanently taints his career. I think he's going to be living in his Malibu mansion until he's dead, but it doesn't matter for like if he's trying to actually have a legacy. I think it's going to look poor at the end of the day, even if he ends up having like a 800, 900 point career, which might not be unrealistic, right? Like, it's just, he's never going to be a better player than that. That's all he is. That's his ceiling. That's the thing. And again, I'm saying all this and he's going to have a 120 point season, yada, yada, yada. Like, it's going to come back and bite me in the ass. But, I don't know. It's just a wild thought to me to imagine a world where, especially think about his line mates. He's playing with an Ovi who can't skate and like what, Matt Milano. Like, it's not gonna like that's not a good world. That's not a good world to be living in. That's not any better than he had in LA. Well, he has a sniper.
It's worse than he had in
Yeah,
LA.
yeah, arguably. Like, he has a sniper on his
than he had in LA.
line, but it's not like Dubois is a passer. And Ovi's not exactly known for setting up guys. So it's not, I don't know. There's not a lot there, at least that I can see, that gets me too excited. But who knows? Maybe Dubois ends up being the next Backstrom and they win a cup next year. Which, speaking of which, as we begin to wrap this up, I will bring that up. I did see that on Twitter earlier today. Somebody like posted the Capitals' potential top 6, and they just went like, "Is this it? Are the Capitals gonna get Ovi number 2?" And I'm like, no, not in a million years. Are they gonna get Ovi his like however many like get Ovi another playoff first round exit? Maybe, but are they? Maybe. Like, that might be in the books. Is going further if they get out of the first round, open the champagne, like, because that'll mean they're beating like a first or second seed. So,
and you're not going to go much further than that.
Yeah. As for LA, because I think we beat on Dubois quite a bit, I actually do like it for them. I think Kemper upgrades the one sort of nitpick I think a lot of people had in their entire team, is because they have a good team. They have a very good team. It's very deep. It's very, very solid defensively. They play with a certain style that not a lot of teams necessarily play with, and it works for them. The only reason they really lost in the first round, because I don't necessarily think they're a first round exit team most years, is they ran into the Oilers, who, I mean, we saw what they've been able to do this entire season, and they ran into a team with a superstar. I think the Kings with Kemper, if Kemper bounces back, have the potential to be a second. Maybe if they do really, really well and get a couple breakouts, they can maybe make a conference, which I think is more than they probably would have had without a better goaltender. I think they were going to forever get handicapped without a better goalie. So that's good for them at the very least.
And it hasn't been that long. When did the Avs win the cup? Like 3 years ago at this point? I think my gut's saying 2.
Yeah, I think
2022, I think.
Yeah.
It's only been 2 years since Kemper won the Stanley Cup for a team. Yeah. He obviously wasn't the reason.
No, he was not.
But to even get to that point as a goalie, you have to have, like, you can't be terrible. He's shown that if you think about it in NFL terms, it's like, can you win a Super Bowl with this quarterback? Like, yeah, you can. He may not be the reason you get there, but you can do it. And like you kind of
So
look at Kemper as
you're
that,
saying that Kemper is the Joe Flacco of the NFL of the NHL? Is that the comment that you're saying?
yeah, I mean, Joe Flacco just won comeback player of
That's
the
true.
year. I mean,
That's true.
I don't know.
L.A.
Um,
L.A. You just got yourself your Joe Flacco. Like,
hearing that a year ago versus now, there's a much different connotation.
that's true. That's true. I more mean it like with the year ago connotations, but still, you know what? You're right.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a very. I think you're right because I think the biggest point is that, like I kind of said before, the goalie market is very weak this year. The best goalie on the market is the goalie they already had in Cam Talbot. Um, so they could,
Oh,
I
you're
guess
just
they
talking
could
free agency.
re-sign
Yeah.
him. Free agency.
Yeah.
That's why, like, the Markstrom move, I think, was even bigger for New Jersey because there's not a lot of goalies out there.
Yeah. And the Kings
Allmark
were
may have
never
been
in on
available in
Markstrom either.
trade, but yeah, this is a very like, it's not swinging for the fences, but it's not. It's a safe move, but it's a calculated safe move. Even if you just look at it from the acquiring Kemper perspective,
Yeah.
without even putting in all the stuff about Dubois, which we've already kind of talked to death. But yeah, like I think it's just a smart move. And a trade like this where it's usually just trading two bad contracts for each other, they managed to get a player who, if a couple things turn around, could actually like really help them and could be a key piece in a sore spot of need. And I think you can't ask for much more than that.